So today we're welcoming Ellen Brown, who's a recruitment and admissions officer at Schulich School of Dentistry and Medicine at Western. And we are recording this session today. However, I want to preface that with the caveat that this is August the 10th, 2023. The things that Ellen will talk about today and the criteria and any sort of information and resources really are only applicable to this coming year. So we will share this video, but we will have it expire so that we don't have out-of-date information. So again, just a reminder, please put your questions in the chat anytime, and Benuri and I will keep an eye on that, and we'll try to get to as many as we can at the end. Okay, I'm gonna zip my lip and I'm gonna hand it over to Ellen. Thank you, Ellen, for coming, and I'm gonna let you take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for signing on today. I'm delighted to be with you and presenting to you about application to our Doctor of Medicine and our Doctor of Dental Surgery programs. So hopefully you can hear me all well with the microphone. And I'm just going to take a minute to share my screen. I have some slides. I'm going to try to go through them. Let me see. Quickly. Now, can you see the presentation? Can you? Okay. Yes, okay, that's wonderful. And as Catherine said, I'm with the Schulich School of Medicine and Dentistry. We're at Western University in London, Ontario. Many of you may know where that is because it's not too far down the highway from McMaster in Hamilton, but some of you may not be familiar with where we are. So we're located about halfway between Toronto and Windsor, Ontario. It's about a 2-hour drive or 200 kilometers in either direction. It's beautiful. This is an aerial shot of our campus. We're just coming up to one of the most beautiful times of year when the trees start to turn. London is a mid-sized city, about 500,000 people. So if you are from anywhere in the southwestern Ontario region, if you attend Western or come to medical or dental school here, you'll get that sort of you'll be close to home, but you'll be away from home. We're a mid-sized city. We have lots of wonderful biking and hiking and cycling trails. We're within an easy commute of at least 3 of our Great Lakes, Huron, Ontario, and Erie. We're also within 45-minute to an hour-and-a-half drive of major U.S. border crossings in Niagara Falls, New York, Windsor, Detroit, Sarnia, Port Huron. There's a Via Rail train station and mega buses and international airports as well. So easy to get in and out. And it's a charming, affordable city with lots of music festivals and getting more and more culturally diverse all the time, with big populations of Colombian and Central American and African and all kinds of people. So I'll jump right into why choose Schulich Medicine. So here's some of the reasons why you might consider coming to Schulich Medicine. We use a holistic approach to the assessment of our applications. That means we look at academic requirements, but also at non-academic traits and experiences. So what you do in your university education is important, but who you are as a person is also very important when we're looking at the assessment. In terms of our medical education program, we use something called a competency-based medical education curriculum. And what that means is, in preparing you for a career as a physician, we will be assessing you at points throughout. It's not a big chunk of information and then you have a test. You will learn a piece of information or a series of information. You will be practicing it, and then you'll be tested on it. And then the next time you'll come back, you'll learn more, you'll experience it, demonstrate it, discuss it, report on it, and then be tested. So it builds and builds and builds. And what you learn first and then next and next, it will just grow your competency in that area. And you'll eventually put all those competencies together as part of the full curriculum. We also have lots of opportunity for hands-on clinical training. So at the end of your very first year, there's Discovery Week, where you are sent into the region, the Southwestern Ontario region, for a week to be observer and practicing with rural physicians in hospitals all over St. Thomas, Sarnia, Owen Sound, Windsor, even here in the London area. And then in third year, it'll be a full-on clerkship, and fourth year hands-on clinical electives, and there'll be lots of opportunities between for research projects and travel and experiences in the community. So what you're really interested in are admission requirements. So to be eligible to apply or for consideration for our Doctor of Medicine, we require you to be either enrolled in the final year or have completed a 4-year undergraduate degree. We currently do not accept students out of third year. If you've completed 3 years, you'll have to be in your 4th or final year, and you will have to complete that year, graduate with a 4-year undergrad to be eligible for consideration. What we'll be looking at within that 4-year undergraduate degree is your 2 best full-time years. They have to be completed between September and April, unless it's a co-op. Then we're going to be looking at your academic co-op terms, not your working terms. And you'll need a full course load and appropriate course levels in each of those 2 years. So they don't need to be your last 2 years. They don't need to be consecutive. They will be looked at separately. So in each of those years, you'll need to meet the minimum GPA, course loads, and levels. And I should say your undergraduate degree can be in anything. If it's science, that's great. If it's geography, that's great. Could be business, could be engineering, could be English. Does not matter what school, what university, or what undergraduate degree you're taking. That does not come under consideration when we're assessing. We just look, do you have a 4-year undergraduate degree, and do you have 2 years that meet our GPA loads and levels? The other academic consideration we take into is the MCAT. So the minimums you have to meet the minimums that we set in each of the sections that we consider, and the minimums are reset each year based on the current applicant pool. So if you were to apply during this current cycle, you would not know what the minimums are until after you apply. So you just have to look at your MCAT scores. You can look online at what our MCAT minimums were for the previous cycle. You can gauge whether or not you think you may or may not meet sort of our expectations. And then it won't be until January, this coming January, that we would post the MCAT minimums for the current cycle, and that would be based on the calculation of all the scores for all the applicants in the current cycle. Our non-academic admission requirements are primarily the following. So we have this Western autobiographical sketch, and this is where we're looking for you to provide us with examples of activities or experiences you've had in each of the 4 areas listed. We want you to tell us what you did. You'll be required to tell us, the title that you had or the role that you played, a brief paragraph, and application will tell you how many characters or how many words are allowed. You'll give us the dates starting and the ending dates, and you'll also need to provide a verifier or somebody who can vouch for that activity or experience. I'd like to caution you, when you're selecting a verifier, they need to be objective, and they need to be able to speak to the entirety of what you are presenting. So if you had 3 separate experiences, or let's say you were an instructor for a certain activity over a period of 5 or 6 years, and you had one of your clients be the verifier, they may not know the entirety of your experience. They might know when they interacted with you. If they can't speak to say, oh, yes, I know that this person did, that's not a good verifier. So be very careful when picking your verifier that they can speak to what you're saying there. If they can only speak to a slice, say, well, I don't know, I knew them for this amount of time, I can't verify whether or not the scope. Just bear that in mind when you're picking your verifiers. Also, the verifiers, you need to ensure that they agree to be contacted and that you're providing us with a current email address and current phone numbers, because we will be reaching out to verifiers. And if we can't contact them, that might be unfortunate. So that's the Western autobiographical sketch. The confidential assessment forms, that's just a fancy way of the application saying we want letters of reference. They're confidential because you identify who the referees are, and then OMSAS, the application, they will reach out to the referees. So we're looking for at least one that's an academic, so a professor, instructor, teacher, one that's non-academic, so not a professor or someone from an academic perspective, And then the third can be of your choosing. We need 3, no less than 3. They can also be, they must be individuals who know you well, but are not peers, friends, or family members. So again, think very carefully about who these people are, because they need to be able to speak about you and their experiences with you in several areas. So application pathways. We have several application pathways. So you can just apply the generalist stream, or if you fall into one of these, you can apply through one of these application pathways. Being accepted or considered through these application pathways will provide you with some flexibility in your minimum MCAT scores. So Southwestern Ontario, this is one you don't have to apply to. This is one that the application automatically identifies. So if you completed high school and have a home address in any one of the 10 counties that are listed there, you will automatically be considered for Southwestern Ontario pathway. And that means you don't have to apply for another pathway because they all give MCAT consideration. You don't need to do the work to apply through another pathway. So if you completed high school in Grey Bruce, Huron, Perth, Oxford, Elgin, Middlesex, Lambton, Chatham, Kent, or Essex, any one of those, and you'll have to put that information into your OMSAS application, you will automatically be flagged for Southwestern Ontario pathway, and you will receive the MCAT flexibility. If you self-identify as First Nations, Métis, or Inuit, you may wish to apply or be considered for the Indigenous pathway. So there are up to 5 designated seats in each incoming class, and you will be asked, in addition to everything from the regular application, in addition to that, we would be looking for confirmation of Indigenous status or ancestral origin, and a personal statement about your relationship to your First Nations community, and some letters of support, perhaps from band leaders or other people in the Indigenous community. If you, maybe after your university education or at some point in time, you choose to go into full-time military service, for individuals who are then interested in applying to medical school in the future, you might be considered for the military medical training program. You would need to have served at least 12 consecutive months full-time with Canadian Armed Forces. And if you were then considered by the Canadian Armed Forces to be eligible and meet our admission requirements, then the military would pay your tuition for medical school. It would mean that you could only apply to become a family physician. You would not at that point be eligible to be, a pediatrician, a psychiatrist, a surgeon, oncologist. It's specifically for people who are looking for family medicine. You could, after the fact, then go into a specialty, but the Canadian Armed Forces would pay your tuition if you came back and then served in the military as a physician for a period of time. You'd need to contact the CAF for more details about their requirements. But our requirements are the same admission requirements as I went through, but you would receive some MCAT flexibility. And then the final pathway we have is called the access pathway. So we recognize that some applicants may have faced barriers or had complexities of lived experiences prior to their application to medical school. And so we would like to take those into consideration. And so if you feel that you have personally experienced a medical, a financial, a sociocultural barrier, or if you self-identify with a group or a population that is underrepresented in the medical profession, you might want to consider applying through the access pathway. We don't get specific with, you might say, well, what does that mean? What's a sociocultural barrier or consideration? It's anything that doesn't specifically fall into medical or financial. So medical is a personal, like if you had a medical condition, it could be a concussion or a cancer diagnosis or a acute chronic illness or something like that. That would be, you might apply with the medical barrier. If someone in your friends or family, so close or family, had that medical issue, then that would be for you a sociocultural barrier, because it's not you experiencing the medical condition, it's somebody else, a parent or a sibling, let's say. Financial would be a personal financial barrier. You can look online, there's details about how some of those are defined and what the requirements are, but you would need to provide a personal statement and provide some documentation. And if you self-identify with a population underrepresented in medicine, that may be, you might self-identify as Black or Filipino or Latin American, or perhaps as part of the LGBTQ2S+ community, or something like that. So again, more detailed information on our website. So some statistics and timelines. So this is just a snapshot of the class that was admitted last year. So the class of 2026, so they're going to be the 2026 grads. We receive a little over 2,600 applications each year. We invite approximately 450 applicants to attend interviews, and we admit we have admitted past up to 171 into our class. Now, with the recent changes, the provincial government, we are now admitting, I think it's up to 187 this coming cycle into our class. And you can see some of the diversity there. 18% of the admitted students had applied and were accepted through the access pathway. 55% are fluent in a second language. 42% applied after they'd completed a graduate degree. So there's some interesting statistics there. This is posted on our website, so you can go back and look at it in detail at any time. The application timeline, you might be aware that the application for medicine opened in early July, so it's open right now. It will close, I think, October 2nd this year, so early October. Okay, this is where I'm going to say this is wrong. Confidential assessment forms are not due in December. I'm going to have to update this. They are due at the time of application. So that would be October as well. So that's my apology. That slipped through. That's a mistake on this presentation. So between October and February, we review the applications, and interviews take place in March, early March, and the first round of offers go out in May. So this is a fairly typical timeline. All the Ontario medical schools have the same application opening and closing dates and first round of offers. What happens between October and May may fluctuate a little bit. Now, that's it for medicine. Maybe Catherine, can I ask, is anybody interested in dentistry? If so, I'll go through it, and if not, we can jump straight to the Q&A.
I had created a poll, Ellen, but I don't really see it. So maybe if you just stop sharing and just for a second, and we'll ask people to not put up your thumb, but put up your hand if you would like to have Ellen also go through the Faculty of Dentistry admissions information as well.
Okay, so there's a few.
Yeah, there's a few.
Okay, well, it's not as extensive as medicine, so I will go through. And there, can you see why I choose Schulich Dentistry? So, and I'll jump right into that. Is that, can you, okay. Can you see that screen? Okay.
I'm seeing your desktop back.
Oh. So share. Does that work now?
Not yet.
Oh. There. Why choose Schulich Dentistry?
We're there.
Okay.
Thank
great. You. Okay. So here's why. So again, just like medicine, we have early introduction to patient care. So in dentistry, the first 2 years, you will be learning all the foundations, a lot of our medical foundations, human systems and things like that. And you will be getting your hands onto, you will get your building your dental kit, your tools within the first 2 years of practice so that you're ready to go by the latter half of your training. But early introduction to patient care, so you will be doing examinations on each other and probably injections on each other, and building up to do patient care. So this photograph here is an instructor and a student in our simulation clinic. We have enough sort of little mini dental chairs, little rooms like this for each student in the class to have their own. They come with the monitors. Like when you go to the dentist and you sit in the chair and you see everything around you, all the suction, all the tools, the video monitors, all of that. We have a setup like that for every single student in the class. And you'll be working hands-on with these simulated patients in the first couple of years and getting really strong lot of practice and strong confidence and skills with all the tools in your dental kit. So that's the introduction to patient care and the simulation lab. Then we also have patient clinics, and you'll be exposed to patients from the get-go, but you'll be building with your time and the complexity of your experience. So in the first couple of years, you may be doing dental exams, just checking out, for gum recession, or whether or not they need a cleaning, or whether or not they have a cavity or something like that. But as you build and go along, you will be tasked with putting together the course of action, completing the course of action, doing all the work, rebooking appointments, all of that, all under the supervision of licensed dentists, dental instructors. And so right from booking the appointments to billing, everything that would happen if you were a dentist owning a practice and responsible for a practice and the staff, you would be responsible everything from, let's say, booking the appointment to doing all of the work to billing them and making sure the patient has paid their bill. So all of that. So it gives you a really good idea of what it's like to run the practice, and of course with all the hands-on dental work. There's also community service learning. So dental students have opportunities to move out into the community to provide dental education and some dental health care to people who do not have dental coverage, or who are underfunded, or just don't have access to dental care or the means to pay for dental care. And so that's really meaningful, and that happens throughout the London area. And then as well, if you're interested in more than becoming dental practice, maybe you would like to become a researcher. There are the Dental Clinician Scientist program. That's a master's level program. And then there's also the OMFS. So that's becoming a dental surgeon, oral maxillofacial surgery. In that case, you would complete your Doctor of Dental Surgery. Then you would apply to the MD program. Then you'd complete a 4-year. So after the 4 years of dental degree, you'd complete 4 years of an MD degree, and then you'd go into your residency, and then you'd be a licensed OMFS practitioner. Okay, admission requirements. Again, we're looking for a 4-year undergraduate degree. Like medicine, it doesn't matter what the degree is in or which school you completed it at, but it needs to be a 4-year undergraduate degree. We're looking for, we do not use GPA, but rather we use academic average. So a minimum 80% academic average in each of your 2 best years with course loads and levels. So again, this is similar to medicine. We're looking for 2 full-time years completed between September and April. We don't look at summer courses or spring evening courses. It does not matter if the courses, for any of this, if they're online or in person, and you need to meet the loads and levels in each of those 2 years. For dentistry, we do have prerequisites. So a half-year organic chemistry course. This can be any organic chemistry course at university level. It can't be a chemistry course with an organic component. It has to say organic chemistry. So for the most part, that's not going to be any first-year course, but it could be a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th-year level course. For biochemistry and physiology, we're looking at least a full-year course, and they need to be from an approved list of courses. So if you go online and look at what we're looking for in biochemistry and physiology, we expect students admitted to dentistry to come to the program with a firm foundation in several subject areas. Your biochemistry course may cover all of those, but it may not. And if it does not, that means you may have to take more than a full year of biochemistry to meet our requirements. Same with physiology. It can be human or mammalian, but there are a list of requirements. So what we've posted online is a PDF. It lists dozens and dozens of universities and courses that have already been reviewed. The curriculum has already been reviewed by our faculty. If you can find the courses on there, or the combinations of courses, it would say if it's a combination, it's this course plus that course. Sometimes it's 3 courses. They may be half courses. If you look at that and you find those courses on there, it means they've been approved and it's accepted for our prerequisites. If they're not listed on there, they may not meet our requirements, or they may not yet have been approved. If that's the case, it will delay our assessment of an application, or it could delay our assessment of an application. So we strongly encourage you, there are like hundreds of courses that have been reviewed. Go for those first, because then you will know, right? If you're saying, well, what if I take this or that? What if I take this or that? We won't know until after they're reviewed, and it takes a long time sometimes for them to be reviewed. And if you email us like the week before you have to apply for the course, you're not going to find out within a week. It may take a couple months before we're able to get a faculty member to review the curriculum to say, yes, this prerequisite is approved, or no, it is not. So strongly encourage you to look at those lists and select prerequisites from those lists if at all possible. Dental aptitude test, we require each student to complete the DAT within the 2 years prior to the application deadline. And again, you must, like our MCAT on the medicine, you must meet the minimum in each section that we consider. The minimums are set based on the applicant pool, so you will not know what the minimums are at the time of application. Those will be posted after the application closes. And then the final is CASPER. So we require all applicants to write the CASPER. If you go to the CASPER website, I'm not sure if it's posted yet because the dentistry application hasn't quite opened, but by the time it opens, it will list the dates of the CASPER exams that are viable. If you write any of those dates that have been approved for Western University, we will accept your CASPER results, regardless of if CASPER does or does not meet our submission deadline. That's their fault, not your fault. So if you write one of the CASPER on the dates that are listed there, you can be assured that we will accept your results if you write a test with a date that's been approved by Western. Non-academic requirements. So we also require an autobiographical sketch and a personal statement. This is more about your extracurricular activities, volunteer experiences, some of your awards or citations, some research, those kinds of things. Also social accountability, and 1 or 2 short essay questions. And this is where we're going to ask you a question. It could be about just about anything, and we just want to hear your perspective. So application pathways, there are just 2 for dentistry. Again, Indigenous, if you self-identify as First Nations, Inuit, or Métis. There are 2 designated seats in each class, and we support Indigenous students here within the school with, we have Indigenous faculty members and some Indigenous spaces and services across campus. For dentistry, we do have an international pathway. So up to 4 seats are open for applicants who do not hold Canadian citizenship or permanent residency. Your admission requirements are the same as a general stream. And in addition, you must demonstrate English language proficiency. So if you did not complete university level degree in English, then you may be also asked to prove English language proficiency. Again, visit our website for detailed information about that. Dentistry admission statistics. So each year we receive in the neighborhood of 600 applications, and we interview between 180 and 200 applicants, and we admit up to 56. So it's quite a small cohort. I know U of T is the other school within the province that has a dental program. Theirs is quite a bit bigger. So ours is quite a bit smaller, more intimate. You would have great student-teacher ratios, and and you can see some of our statistics here of admitted students, some of the minimum scores. Oh, and this is actually the dentistry admission timeline. So my apologies there, that should say dentistry. So the application opens in September and it will close November the 1st. Between November and January, that's when we review the applications. Interviews will take place in February, and the first rounds of offers will go out in March. So it's a bit of a compressed application period and a compressed assessment period, September to March, but those are the dates there. So that's the end of my presentation. There's all of the information that I've shared, and much, much more is detailed on our website. So I know it may be a bit of a snooze going to a website, but it's all there. We're not hiding anything. We're not holding back. We're not trying to trick you or be coy about it. It's all there in great detail. So, and be cognizant of the language that we use. We're very specific. So in terms of, for medicine or dentistry, we're looking at your 2 best years. We say best years. We don't say last years. A lot of applicants think it has to be their 3rd and 4th year. No, we don't say your last years, your 2 best years. Any 2 best years within your undergraduate degree is what we're going to be looking at for either your GPA for medicine or your academic average for dentistry. So be cognizant when you're reading. Also, if you have questions that can't be answered by visiting our website, you can email us, medicine or dentistry. My colleagues are there every day, and we will get back to you if you've got more complicated question. So that's it, and I'd be happy to spend the rest of our time together answering questions. I'm sure there will be some.
Yeah, we have. Thanks so much, Ellen. That was a great whirlwind, comprehensive tour of the studies at Western, and I appreciate you covering dentistry as well. So yes, there are lots of questions. So I've answered a few of them that were, pretty straightforward, and I don't think there are any huge changes this year in Western's eligibility and admissions standards. Am I correct in that?
Not that I'm aware of either. So the medicine application is open right now. Dentistry will open in September, so in about a month's time it will open. And again, no, nothing huge. There may have been tweaks, but again, go to our website to look to make sure that you've got all the admission requirements. So again, yeah. So like on the MCAT side, we say we don't ever say which sections we use. We say all sections may be considered. In past, there have been certain sections we consider. So, look again and just make sure that you're applying, that you know which sections, you won't know which sections we consider until we post that. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, I'm going to start with a question that has a lot to do with your 4 groups and your catchments. So I'm curious. So what if my postal code is L8N3Z5? I come from Hamilton. How does that work? Unless I need to fit in with one of the other categories?
If you're looking for MCAT flexibility, then to be considered for, we call it Southwestern Ontario. Now it's our definition of Southwestern Ontario. It's not the entirety of Southwestern Ontario. And the best way I can explain it, and again, I'm not the expert on this, but there are 6 medical schools, currently 6, soon to be 7 in Ontario. And as part of our programs, we each rely on the existing physicians who are practicing to accept and supervise students in clerkship. So that's generally around the 3rd year of practice, and to welcome students who do things like I said, Discovery Week. We send all of our 1st year class on Discovery Week throughout our definition of Southwestern Ontario to those counties. And then again, for residency, after you graduate from medical school, then there's residency, and physicians, until you're independently licensed, you are going to need to be supervised by a practicing physician. So to give a little bit of organization or context to that, each medical school kind of looks to a certain part or a certain geographic area within the province that makes sense. We don't want to be sending our students to Northern Ontario or way out to the Kingston area if they're headquartered here in London, and maybe their support system is here, and maybe they're hoping to practice in this area. Likewise, students who are attending McMaster University Medical School, or Toronto, or Ottawa, or Kingston, or Nossum. So we've divided up the area, and so our definition of Southwestern Ontario are those 10 counties from Owen Sound down along Lake Huron down to Lake Erie. That is our Southwestern Ontario. That is where we're hoping to engage physicians to accept our clerks, and hopefully residents who do their residency through Schulich Medicine. That's where the physicians are, where we will send our students for the Discovery Week and other sort of exploratory. It's also where we're hoping to, or we're wanting to support healthcare and physician development and physicians going to those communities. I mean, the rural and regional area, we would like to draw applicants from those areas because they may like to return there, because that's where they're from, that's where their families are, that's where their footprint is, that's where their heart is. If they're from Goderich, they might want to go back there because that's where, they don't have to, but maybe that's where it is. So our Southwestern Ontario, if you went to high school, which means if you've got sort of had a home base there. If you attended all 4 years of high school and graduate from there, then that's where your family is from. That's where you were from. We would like to offer you some MCAT flexibility if you choose to come to Schulich. And we're thinking
So, yeah.
we want
So
to
that's the
support.
perk.
That's
Yeah.
the perk
Right.
for applicants from this area. I believe McMaster has something similar for, maybe around the Golden Horseshoe or the Kitchener, Hamilton, Brantford area. Toronto has something, Ottawa, Kingston, all the universities have this area of engagement. We just call ours Southwestern Ontario. It used to be called distributed education or medical education or SWOMEN or SWOR, like the names change. But anyway, that's what that's all about. So if your high school postal code does not fall within our 10, if it does fall within our 10 counties, you will automatically be flagged in the system as Southwestern Ontario for Schulich Medicine. If it does not, you won't. So it's a big explanation for something that's fairly simple. That's the only one you don't have to apply for. It's just you're required to put your high school information in. Then if you were to be invited for an interview for us, then we would require you to submit your high school graduation transcript.
Right.
As a verification.
Yeah, okay, so I think that's pretty clear. I wasn't sure, I didn't totally understand it was just in the context of the MCAT score, and that makes sense. Every university has its own catchment area, and of course it's home. So what about international students? Is there a place? Do you encourage application?
In international students, we have a pathway for dentistry. We do not for medicine. So to be eligible to apply or to be considered for our MD program, you must at the very least have permanent residency at the time of application. So you would be required to submit a photocopy of both the front and the back of your permanent residency card. If it has expired and you're in the process of getting it renewed, then attach a copy of the expired card. It's kind of like your Ontario health card, or your driver's license. You've got one, it expired, you haven't got your new one yet. That's at least a placeholder. So the front and the back, we need to see both of those. If you at some point transition from permanent residency to citizenship, that's great. But there's no difference between those two statuses. But you must have at least permanent residency at the time. Yeah, permanent residency. You must have been pre-approved for that at the time of application to be considered. If you don't have it at the time of application and you get it later, like December, we can't consider it. You'd have to wait and apply the next year. So there's no wiggle room. There's no wiggle room for these admission requirements.
Gotcha. So here's a question from Dahlia, and this is one that we get a lot, and it's, so when we're looking at your best 2 years, what if I'm currently in my 4th year and it's October 2nd and I'm applying to Western and I want to use this 4th year as one of my best years? How does that work?
Okay, that's an important question. So I'm going to start with dentistry. For dentistry, we will not look at the year in progress. If you're in your 4th and final year, you can apply, but you must already have completed both years or 2 years that meet our academic average course load and course load. So dentistry, we will not look at your year in progress as one of your 2 best years. You have to have them completed. For medicine, we will consider your year in progress as one of your 2 best years. So it must be your final year of your program, and you must already have 1 year that meets our minimum GPA, course load, and course levels. So in that case, what you do is you provide your transcript of your current year in progress. And if it doesn't say much, then after the application deadline, you can still submit a document. As soon as you get that transcript, we would like to see it. What we're looking for is, does your year in progress look like from your transcript that you're carrying a full course load? Can we see a full course load there? And do those courses look like they meet the minimum course level? So those are going to be our course levels. If we were looking at your 1st year of university, all of your course load would need to be university level courses. We don't consider baccalaureate courses from, that you took in high school that qualified. They have to be university courses. So that's your first year. The second year of your program, the second academic year of your program, 60% of your course load between September and April would need to be courses that are deemed year 2, second year university courses. If we're looking at the third year of your undergraduate program and any subsequent year, so third, fourth, even it took you 5 or 6 years to complete your program, if we're looking at your third year and anything after that, 60% of that course load would need to be third year courses or higher. So we're not looking for fourth year courses or da-da-da. So first year has to be university, second year needs to be 60% second year courses or higher, third year needs to be 60% third year courses or higher after that. So if the year in progress, we'd be looking at your transcript to say, is it the final, does it look like the final year of your program? Are you going to get all the credits you need to attain a 4-year undergraduate degree? Is it a full course load between September and April? And do those courses appear to be 60%, at least 60% third year courses or higher? And if that's the case, we say, okay, looks like this person has potential to meet our requirements for their second best year. And we will put you on through, we'll review your non-academic requirements. If you meet that and if you rank, you may be invited for an interview. And if you do well and you receive an offer of admission, that offer will be conditional upon you completing that final year and meeting all the requirements. So we won't be using that GPA when we're calculating all the way through, but you will need to complete that final year. It will need to meet the minimum GPA and it will need to meet our course load and course level requirements. Offers go out in May. It'll be a conditional offer. You won't receive that final transcript until convocation in June. And so then you send it to us and we'll look at it and we'll say, great, you have met the conditions of your offer, or unfortunately, you have not met the conditions and the offer is rescinded. So that's how that works on the medicine side.
Great. That's very
yeah?
clear. Yeah. Thanks, Ellen. So one question about the autobiographical sketch. Janet's asking, if you have a hobby, can a verifier be a family member?
We prefer that verifiers be objective. I guess you need to use your own best judgment. Referees cannot be family members. Like for the confidential assessment forms, the referees, they cannot be family members, friends, peers, that sort of thing. Verifiers, there may be some instances where it's the only person who knows about this is a family member. Then, but we're going to look to see, like, if it's during the review, we're going to look to see, like, is this something that, it makes sense that only a family member or only a certain specific person would know. So if it is something that only a family member could know, then use your family member. We'll be expecting them to be objective. So, I mean, it's a tough call. We don't want to tell you firm yes or no, or use these experiences or don't use, but use your best judgment when selecting the activities you want to share, because what we want to know is what you learned from your activity and how that knowledge, that learning will be applicable in a future career. There are no activities that are good or bad or better or less, more or less applicable. It's not about the activity. It's about you're demonstrating, you're communicating what you learned and how that learning will carry you into a career in medicine.
Yeah, that makes sense. So another question. I'm just gonna fire these at you. So in medicine, now I know for most Ontario schools, if you've written the MCAT more than once, most schools in Canada just use the last time, that your scores from the last time, whereas a lot of the US schools actually start, accumulated. And what does Western do?
We will look at the most recent scores. So if you write the MCAT and you do pretty well and you think, I think I could do better, and you write it again and you don't do better, we will use the most recent scores. So use your own best judgment. I know it's expensive to write the MCAT. It's time consuming to study for it. And you don't know what our minimums are going to be. You can look online, and if you've been monitoring, we keep, every year we say last year's MCAT minimums were such and such. So you can, if you've been monitoring this, you can keep your own tally of that. We only keep posted what they were for the previous. So right now, the MCAT scores minimums listed were for the class that was admitted last September. Their minimums are online. You can go look that up. But we do only use the most recent, even if they are not the highest, and we don't average them. And so the MCAT must have been written and the scores prior to the application deadline. I think OMSAS, the application site, they set the deadline for when the scores need to be received. We don't set that. OMSAS sets that. So you need to make sure, and you need to make sure that you tell the MCAT provider, I think AAMC, to release the scores into which schools. That's your responsibility to do that. And so you look at, if you haven't written it yet, what's the last date you think you can write it if you're going to push it to the end, and you need to manage all those deadlines. It's a lot. It's really a lot. We recognize that, but being a physician is a lot. So, this is early training for it's just going to keep coming. So
here's a question for you that often comes up. So I know you wouldn't look at marks that come from a graduate studies program. However, some schools will give a little GPA bump if somebody has a graduate degree. Does Western do anything like that?
So for dentistry, if you have a graduate degree that has been conferred at the time of application, there are some nominal bonus points, and there's some for a master's and other for a PhD. Now, it's not, if the graduate degree is in progress, no bonus points. If it's conferred at the time of application, there will be some bonus. For medicine, there's no bonus points. And we don't consider coursework or GPA from grad programs. But in either case, medicine or dentistry, you are welcome to reference your graduate work, your research, whatever, in your autobiographical sketch. And you are also welcome to draw on that. Should you be invited for an interview, when you're responding to those questions, by all means, you can refer to your graduate work or what you've done or your experiences in responding to those. So we don't look at the academics, but it can be considered as part of your application if you bring that forward in your autobiographical sketch or the interview.
And I see somebody has a question down here, Elmira. Does it matter what kind of master's it was? Would a research-based master's be stronger contender than a course-based master's?
No, it's just I don't believe that there's any difference. There's just for a master's or a PhD.
Right. Gotcha. I'm sorry, I'm just looking for, there was a question here I wanted. Somebody had asked about, is there any stipulation that courses have to be in person? So what if I take an online course for a semester?
No, you could take a completely online degree. That does not matter. You could take online courses. Now, a couple of things. If you take an online course that as part of your undergraduate degree, and you would like it to be considered for GPA or academic average, that online course must have been completed in its entirety between September and April. So if it's an in-person course, we're only going to be looking at courses completed between September and April. So if it's a spring evening or a summer course, you can take those. They can count towards completion of your degree. They will not count towards the calculation of your GPA or for the medicine, the academic average. They have to be completed during the September to April, the traditional year. If it's co-op, that's different. We will look at the academic co-op terms. I'm not going to go into detail there. People can email me if they have to, or look online on our website, even better, because it's all outlined there. If it's an online course, and maybe you have 10 months to complete it or something, maybe it starts in January and ends in June, that would not be eligible because it's not completed during the September to April. So you have to make sure, and if it's not apparent from looking at your transcript, we will either ask you for verification or we'll go looking for ourselves to say, when did this course begin and when did it end? That means like the coursework, the exam, a regular course, starts in September, ends in December, starts in January, ends in April, that sort of thing. We're looking for that sort of rigor with the online courses. But certainly you could do an entire online degree if you so choose. And as long as you meet our admission requirements, that's okay. Now, one more thing I'll say that I didn't say before. Within each of the 2 years for medicine or dentistry that we're looking at for consideration, we will allow up to 1 full course equivalent that is a credit, no credit, or pass fail, or placement, whatever that is. All of the other courses, so 80% of the courses between September and April must carry a grade, either numeric or alpha or grade. 1 full course equivalent, 20%, can be pass, fail, or credit, no credit. Doesn't matter if it's a required course, if it's an elective. It doesn't matter if both halves of that are in the fall or in the winter. It doesn't matter how that's organized, but we will accept or look at an academic year that meets our requirements, and it cannot contain more than 1 of those. If you've overloaded, if you've got more than a full course load, then we will look at sort of, does a full course load meet our requirements? And if you've got more than that, for medicine, we will try to remove, do you have an extra half course or full course that's over and above the full course load? If we can, we will try to eliminate that or disregard that overage. And if what's remaining still meets our requirements, we'll base it on that, and your GPA may go up a little bit. If we don't consider that course and you don't meet the requirements, then we will just take it based on the overage. Like we look at 30 credit hours. If it's 31, we will base it on whatever is eligible. So if we can slim that down to just a full course load and you still meet our requirements, that's benefit to you. But if that will make the year ineligible, we won't slim it down. We'll keep it an eligible year and you go with that. Dentistry, they don't, if you have an overage, we don't cut that down. We just take, if it's like 31 credits, that's what it's based on.
Yeah, wow. This is a lot of information for an hour, Ellen. and we've got a lot of other questions, but I do want to say that a lot of the questions have to do with, ideal candidates, best suited. And let me just tell you, all of you, these are big conversations. So I encourage you to speak with your career advisors. For those of you who are in Faculty of Science, you can come into the Science Career and Co-op Education Office. Student success is there for all of you. I know there are some business and humanities students here. You have your own career services. So check in with them and student success especially, because they can help you have those conversations about how do I, just as Ellen was describing, it's not just what you did, it's what are the values that you bring out of it that suit you for a career in medicine.
And if I can just jump in and say, there is no ideal candidate, right? We're not looking for, this person. We're looking for students who are going to be representative of the fabric of society, who will be able to interface with patients, and physicians and dentists as well. Like I can speak more to physicians, wear a lot of hats. I mean, we've just come through this whole COVID. It's not over yet. The doctors aren't just the people that meet you in their clinics or in the hospitals. They're on news and TV. They're the researchers who are coming up with the vaccinations and examining, trying to figure out the long-term effects of COVID, right? They're the teachers who are in our medical schools, who they run practices and they come back and they share their expertise with the students. They're the speakers and the leaders in our communities who are speaking to media and going out into communities and talking to people. They're the hospital leaders, administrators, operations, like they're wearing a lot of hats, right? So if you see yourself in any or all of those roles, that's all possible for physicians. Dentists, you know, similarly, they're business owners, they're entrepreneurs. They have to take care of human resources and operations and finances, in addition to dental care and patient advocacy. You know, there's a whole now moving, you know, provincially funded dental care, right? Dental care isn't part of our OHIP, isn't part of our health care, but they're exploring that, and maybe it should be, because good dental health, oh my gosh, that affects everything. If you don't have good teeth, you can't eat or chew good food, and that affects your nutrition and your bodily health and your longevity. Like it goes on and on and on. So all this to say, there's not an ideal candidate. There's not ideal activities. We're not asking for you to say, you must do this, this, and this. We're not saying you must have research, or you must do shadowing, or you must have an internship. Like, not everybody has the ability to do that or the interest to do that.
Or the time.
If you've done some of that, and if you've done some of that and you've learned something, it's been impactful, share that with us. If you've done other things and that's been impactful, maybe you grew up on a farm, maybe your family had a store, you know, maybe you had a really, really challenging life and and you didn't have opportunity to do any of those things, but you still had life experiences.
Yeah,
What you've lived, bring that to the table. Be yourself. Don't try to shoehorn yourself into what you think we're looking for. We're looking for authentic people. And I hate to say this, but not everybody is going to get in, and not everybody is suited. You might be 2,600 applicants for 180 some slots, 600 applicants for dentistry for 56 slots. Not everybody gets in. So what we do say, and it breaks my heart to say this, but I have to say it, take an undergraduate degree or pursue education in something you love, because you're more apt to do well if you enjoy your program. And also have a plan B, because not everybody gets in. At the end of the day, I mean, you might apply, you might get in the first time, you might not, you might apply again a second or third time. That's not unusual. You might eventually get in, but you might not. You need to have a plan B. What are you going to do? Don't just take a course of study because you think that's going to get you in. If it doesn't, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? So
thanks, Ellen. That's really.
I'll sum up there, and please go to our website and look for everything that I've talked about and more. Thank you for listening.
The other question, the other volume of questions was around statistics. So is there a place on your website where, you know, you talk, like where you give like statistics around the average grade points? Because I know McMaster has them for like the last 5 years or something like that.
So what I'll do is I'm just going to see if I can share. Let me see. Let's see if I can share my screen briefly. And let me see here. Okay, can you see Schulich Medicine and Dentistry admissions website? Can you see that or not?
No.
No, let me see. Okay. Okay, there. Can you see?
Yes.
You can see that? Okay, so this is our homepage. And if you click on here for medicine, you get all this drop down and admission statistics. This is exactly right. Dentistry, the same thing, a drop down, admission statistics. That's exactly what I shared is, you know, it's on our website.
Excellent.
It'll be after we admit the class of 2027, which will be in about a month's time. These will be updated and it will say meet the Schulich Medicine or Schulich Dentistry class of 2027, and it'll have this statistics. So this is where you go. This is what we share. We don't keep it on year over year, but if you want to look or you want to take a screenshot, whatever you want to do, or you know, chart it somehow, that's up to you.
Thanks, Ellen. This has been really valuable, really helpful, and thank you for sharing. I don't think I saw that statistics page, so I'm glad that you
Yeah.
brought it to our
If,
attention.
yeah, if you click on either of those drop downs, you'll see admission requirements, how to apply, Indigenous applicants, international applicants, Southwestern Ontario applicants, access pathway, military. We've got, and frequently asked questions.
It's all there.
Go through, it's
Yeah,
all there.
it
And
is.
so,
Yeah.
and the last
Yeah.
thing is, and Catherine, you and I spoke briefly about this before we started. Always go back to the source. Always come back to our website or contact admissions medicine or admissions dentistry. I don't know how many times I've heard an applicant say, well, word on the street, or I've heard, or people are saying, and it's like, if you hear it in a chat, or if it's on some kind of a student forum, it may or may not be accurate. It may or may not be current. It may not be understood properly. Like, come back to the source, come back to our website, reach out to our team, just because it would be a shame if you put all this time and energy into an application and you didn't have the most recent up-to-date information. That would just be really a shame. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we'll only have this video available for this period for a year, because it may be, there may be big changes coming down. You just never know. Anyway, thank you so much, Ellen. I so appreciate your time today. And for the questions that didn't get answered, again, please, talk to one of your career offices, the Faculty of Science. It's, come and see me and my colleagues, Amar and Hannah. Also, I noticed there were a lot of not quite even started at McMaster students who registered. Yay, you guys.
Yeah.
So we're having all kinds of welcome week activities. So make sure you look at us online on Oscar Plus and come and visit us and say hello.
Yeah. And I can say as well, if you go to Western University webpage, their homepage, in November, they have a fall preview day. You can come to campus. You can look at the campus. We will have a booth available in the morning on campus. You can come and talk to us and ask us questions. We will be at the OUF fair in Toronto at the convention center. That's, I think, October 22nd or something. We will be there. And then we will have a spring open house on Western campus again. So the end of October for OUF. I think it's a Sunday morning in November for fall preview day, and it's a Saturday morning in March or April, or maybe it's May. Anyway, it's spring. Western University has that. So if you want to talk to us or see us in person or come explore the campus, those are opportunities.
Thanks, Ellen. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. We've already used more time than we expected. Thank you, students, all for coming. Thank you for your great questions. And thank you, Ellen, for being so gracious with your time and with your answers. So,
My pleasure.
Appreciated.
Take
Okay,
care.
have a
Bye-bye.
good day, everybody. Bye.